Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cinema Savvy News. I am your host, George, and today I'm joined with my other co-host, Chris Vagana, and there was no Tate. I'm not used. That's probably the most serious I've ever done an intro, so we're getting steps in the right direction. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, so no Tate tonight. I'm thinking we're going to try and breeze through this one quickly. We've talked about changing things up with the show, and one of them is the length of it. So we're going to try and keep it as truncated as possible. Although we do have a lot of good stuff to talk about today. We've got James Bond news, we've got Christopher Nolan news, so it's a good bunch of stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, and I guess before we go straight in, we will say D23 is this weekend. On Monday, we will have a very, very special D23 roundup video because there's going to be a lot of Disney news. It's going to be Star Wars, Marvel, Disney live action, animated films. It's going to be insane. So Monday, we've got a special one following post Comic-Con episode because you just know that when Marvel announced they're doing a 90-minute panel, you know that things are going to get unveiled. So, yeah, the next couple of weeks, we've got normal news plus two very, very special ones. So I'm going to pull that. But first up, maybe the first time we've spoken about this franchise in maybe, 2 years? And I don't think I was even on the Spectre review. We've got some James Bond news. And I guess the main thing to say is Daniel Craig is set to be staying on as Bond. It was very well known during the publicity campaign for Spectre. He would rather cut his own wrists than play James Bond. He was done with the character. He was done and dusted. I always knew he had another film left on his contract because after Skyfall, he signed a 2-picture deal. I've always remembered this. And surprise, surprise, he's set to be staying on.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how much money they're offering his way to get him back, because I guess it's just like, as a viewer, our minds kind of work in trilogies, and we've had the Daniel Craig trilogy now, and I know that's not like a thing tied to the James Bond franchise. I think, Moore was the longest running Bond,
Moore did the most films and across the most amount of years. But yeah. I mean, Daniel Craig, if you think about it, this is going to hit in 2019, which I guess is common for it to work through. 06 to 19 is 13 years. That's a pretty heavy stint as Bond. I mean, I think Moore, is he 70? He may be 73 or 1 or 2 to 84, maybe. Obviously, back then there were way more films. But I think I've got nothing wrong with Craig staying, and I do like him as Bond. The other thing I will quickly add in, they want to try and start filming end of this year. At the minute, they have no director in place, and they're trying to get Adele to do another Bond theme, which I'm down with. But the main thing before pre-production is that they've got Craig on board.
Yeah. I'm one of the people that really don't care for Daniel Craig's incarnation of Bond. I liked Casino Royale. It's probably my favorite Bond film, but I didn't like him as Bond in it. And I think by the time that Spectre came out, and actually a lot of people didn't like that movie, I thought it was fine. It felt like he was done. Even in that movie, even the ending of that movie, which I won't give away, but the last scene of that film did kind of feel like a farewell to his incarnation of Bond. I think it needs some new blood in there with a new director, a new Bond, just do a complete, not a reboot, keep it in the same franchise, but it needs something new. And I guess that brings us on to the next bit of news, which is very interesting if this pans out.
Lord Christopher Nolan is currently marketing his masterpiece Dunkirk. We have a review for that coming out next week. And during his marketing campaign, he was asked if Harry Styles would make a great James Bond. No, I'm joking. Christopher Nolan, over the years, he's been very vocal in the fact that the pinnacle, I think the original quote was, the pinnacle of British filmmaking is to direct a James Bond film. He's always said that to some degree, but this time he says something a bit more interesting. He says that, I've spoken to Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson over the years. I deeply love the character of Bond. I'm excited to see what they do with it, ... The way I see it, this is a guy that technically is out of a job after next week because he's finished his film. And there's a James Bond film that wants to start filming end of this year. Give it to Nolan. I'm joking. No. I'd love to see Nolan direct Bond. It's something that it's inevitable that it will happen eventually. Whether or not, I don't think he'd step into the next Bond. I feel like he'd be the director to cast the next Bond, to get his own story across, his own setup, rather than. I mean, I think me and you spoke about this yesterday when we were talking about this stuff, and right now the Bond universe, I guess you could say, isn't too badly set for the Nolan verse in the sense that it's grounded to a degree. It's got the Q that's sort of modern tech, isn't some nonsense like jetpacks and stuff like that. I feel that right now they have a Bond that would suit the Nolan aesthetic, but I feel that he'd want that final say unless he does go for it, which I would love and adore that. If in the background he's quietly been plotting his Bond film, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so you were talking about like the whole gadgets thing, and I think the closest that it's ever come to going back to like the old style was the Union Jack parachute in Spectre, and even that didn't feel like it was in keeping with the tone of the Sam Mendes Bond films. And as you said, like the new franchise of Bond is absolutely, it feels Nolanized already. And I think he said in an interview as well that, or I saw it on an article somewhere, that if he did direct Bond, he'd want it to be the next incarnation. He'd want to do something different with it and offer his own take on it. I think that's the best way to go. So I think that he probably won't direct this one, but I think there's a good chance that he will direct one in the future. Even with all his other films in the past, he's been very vocal about how Bond has inspired his filmmaking. I think with Inception, with the third dream level in the snow, with the whole skiing segment, he said that On Her Majesty's Secret Service was a big influence on him, and you can see that in some of his films. I'd like to see Nolan's take on a Bond film, whether he'd do, maybe it'd be a new trilogy. Maybe this would be the second Nolan trilogy following the Dark Knight one, or maybe he'd just do a one-off. I really don't know. But you were talking about yesterday about the whole, is it like the distributor of Bond and how it's been up in arms for quite a long time?
So Eon have the rights to the character of James Bond. They've always had the rights. Technically, there's more than 24 Bond films. There's the unofficial ones like Never Say Never and the original Casino Royale from, I think, 58. And what's happened, obviously, for those that have never seen a James Bond film recently, you may have noticed across the film, Sony cameras, Sony laptops, Sony phones, Sony this, Sony that, Sony there. Sony own the rights to James Bond like they do for Spider-Man. And that finished with Spectre. And at the minute, they have not announced the new distributor. They might have arranged with Sony. They haven't said anything. However, during the Sony hacking a couple of years back, I believe that the Spectre script leaked online, and some people managed to get hold of it. They leaked emails, and Sony weren't in a good place. It's affected them badly. Amy Pascal was the Marvel deal, so at least she's got that right, to be fair. And one of the companies, strangely, Disney are one of the favorites, but the main company that are after the Bond franchise to distribute are Warner Bros. And who has released every film since 2005 under the one? No, was Memento Warner Bros? I can't remember, but Nolan is a Warner Bros. Guy. Like, to be fair to them as a company, they don't necessarily fuck over directors. I think that's a nice way of saying it. Even with their DC films, creative control, they're normally quite lenient. If someone's got a project that they're behind, then they'll actually give them a go. But they like to use the same directors over. They like it's like old school Hollywood. Like Nolan will do their film. Zack Snyder's a Warner Bros. Guy, and they like to keep their guys to them. And I feel that if they get the rights to Bond, then we're going to 1,000,000,000% get a Nolan Bond film, because Warner Bros. Just give this guy a blank checkbook and they know he gets results and they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, they've given him that creative freedom pretty much right after Batman Begins. Like, he made that movie, and you can tell that maybe the studio had a little bit of control with that one. And then they let him do Prestige, Inception, Interstellar. So at this point, he could pretty much make anything he wants. And I think that if he did get a Bond movie, they'd pretty much give him leeway with whatever he wanted to do. They'd have enough trust in him that he would bring in the box office results like all his other films have. But yeah, I mean, if Warner Brothers do get it, and I think that as a company, that's a pretty good one to have Bond. Like, I think that would be a good fit. If they do get the rights to Bond, then I think it's a done deal that Nolan's going to direct one of these in the future.
Yeah, and I think it's the right thing to do. Like I said, it's inevitable. And I guess moving on from Bond, we have some more Nolan news. Something that we wouldn't normally talk about, but there's a couple of reasons why this, and obviously it's a gateway between the next news and the one we just had. Nolan has announced himself that the Dark Knight trilogy is getting a 4K remaster. They haven't got a release date, but it's rumored to come at the end of this year. But essentially, for those that don't know what 4K is, it's the new technology. 4,000. There's 1080p, then there's 4K, so it's 2-3 times as powerful on a good day. And a lot of films now, a lot of them shoot in 4K already. They have done over the years, blah blah blah. This surprised me a lot of Chris Nolan, and this is him talking about 4. I'm just going to read his quotes, and there's something that would surprise you, because as me, he goes, the wonderful thing about 4K technology is it gets closer to the resolution that we shot the films in. We meaning the Batman trilogy. The finished 35mm films have at least 6K resolution. I like my films to have upwards of 18K resolution. As home video evolves, 4K, particularly with the HDR, allows us to give a home experience that's much closer to what it was like to see the original film print projected on film. I think it's a very exciting proposal. It's a long, complicated process that we're doing now, but the results I'm seeing are very pleasing and very spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking, why are they talking about 4K? Well, it's not the fact that I've just bought a 4K TV and paid a lot to make that upgrade. It's the fact that Christopher Nolan, the guy that's all about film, has shot his films in 6K, some in 18K. That's mental. And for a guy that's always been Mr. Traditional, he's never shied away from new technology if it's improved the films he's been working on. And we've had that, obviously, with the Dark Knight trilogy, with him basically making IMAX the film format is now that everyone's gone to IMAX. He's one of the main reasons of that.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about how his films have minimum 6K, not that that's for the future, but these are films that are like 10, 11 years old, and even back then, he knew what he was doing. And I'm really excited because he seems like the sort of guy that if you said you're remaking his film in 3D, he'd be like, oh, go away. But this is a technology he's really keen for, and you can just tell now that if he's talking about it, then that's awesome. I'm excited to see what they're going to look like.
Yeah, he's never been a big fan of 3D, has he? But he's always been about resolution, and that came in with like the Dark Knight, with the whole IMAX, the scenes that were shot in IMAX, and I think he shot even more with Dark Knight Rises. I think with 4K in now, you're going to see a lot of filmmakers going back to their older films and remastering things in 4K. I mean, you're now the proud owner of a 4K TV. Unfortunately, I don't have one. I'm still in the realm of 1080p. But you can. I've seen 4K before, and the results are night and day. It's absolutely incredible. I know they're already working on 8K. That's probably going to be a good few years off before we get to that point. But when new technology comes in, it's always highly sought after. Not much out there. But as the years go on, they bring more and more films out. I think Disney are jumping on the 4K bandwagon now as well. We're going to be seeing a lot more 4K things. And if you're going to do a trilogy, I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy is absolutely one to do. That will look phenomenal in 4K.
Especially like with the fact that, not to praise the films, I mean, we could do that all day, but the fact it's practical sets, you're going to see that detail more. And some 4K films do improve the frame rating. Obviously, the big toy point of the Hobbit trilogy was it 48 frames per second they did it at?
Frames, yeah.
And that was, I've only just got my telly, so I can't sit there tell you the ins and outs, every single little thing that I've gone. But I've got 4 films that I'm going to get through. Hacksaw Ridge, which I rang you to see if it was worth buying. Logan, which is obviously going to be the one. Fantastic Beasts, and unfortunately it came with Ghostbusters. And I can't trade it in because it says not for resale, so no shop will take it. I understand why. But,
so you got 3 films and a very nice coaster.
I wouldn't even say nice coaster. I don't want it to be seen in my room. But I feel that the fact that this text here, like 3D, like I've liked 3D. That was my previous setup. I was a big fan of 3D. I'd always defend it whenever I could. And there's a stage now where they've stopped making 3D TVs. I think they announced that last year. They're stopping production on them. They're going to keep making Blu-rays, but that format is not dead because they're all still shooting in 3D. I think we'll always get 3D at the cinema, and it will eventually go to 2D Blu-rays from the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. But I feel that now with 4K films, if they're being shot into like back then in 6K, 18K, then 4K is going to be where a lot of people revisit. I mean, Mad Max got 4K release. A lot of films are getting them new, but there's a lot of older ones, even ones I think I've seen Independence Day in a shop in 4K. And, it's not something you chuck in your trolley and you buy straight away, but it's going to be interesting seeing how these films differ, because you're changing the frame rate on some films. I guess not all of them have that capacity. I'm going to be intrigued to see what comes next, but the resolution itself, it's incredible. I can't talk about from what I was watching Fantastic Beasts the other day, like on the opening scene on the boat, I never noticed this and you wouldn't, but there's water on the floor and you can see the reflection of characters in the background. And like, it's not like I haven't got like an 80-inch telly. That's not something I've made up to a screen, looked at. You notice it because it's on the screen. Mm-hmm. And it's a tech that, if you've got, to myself, at the minute, the best working director, to me, the best working director in the world at the minute, instigating another new technology that people are behind, it's only going to help it get further. And hopefully some more filmmakers come out. I know that we will get the Star Wars films eventually in 4K. Gareth Edwards let slip that he saw A New Hope in 4K at Lucasfilm. So unlike 3D, which is a gimmick, no matter how long we talk about for, 3D is a gimmick that will die out. 4K is going to be here till 8K. It's like 1080p. I think the pixel rate is 3840 by like 2160, something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and this isn't 4K, but when like a film, like an older film gets a rescreening, for example, Terminator 2, which I'll talk about later, that's getting a rescreening in August. When you see something on a bigger screen, if it's been remastered slightly, you notice a lot more. And you know the film, you may have seen the film hundreds of times, you know the film inside out, but you do pick up on little bits like that. So I'm wondering, with 4K re-releases like this, with the Dark Knight trilogy, will we notice some more of like the sets, for example, or the Joker's makeup? You'll have more detail on it, you'll be able to see things. So I think it'll be an interesting experience, and I do genuinely think you'll see something new once you watch it in that higher resolution.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that's the most tech we've ever spoken about on this channel.
Yeah.
So let's head on to some more Batman news. Like I said, we bridged the gap. Matt Reeves, director of film of the year so far, War for the Planet of the Apes. I cannot recommend this enough. We've done maybe one of my favorite reviews on the channel to date so far. Yesterday, War for the Planet of the Apes. Go see that film. Go support that film. Director Matt Reeves, if you don't know, he's doing Batman next. Something to be very, very excited about. There's a rumor a couple of months back he was going to do a page one rewrite from the Ben Affleck script. And he confirmed it in an interview this week. So they asked him, he just goes, yeah, I'm doing a rewrite. Basically, he's got his story and he wants to tell his Batman story. And I've got no issue with that. I'm completely behind that. But the key question people are speaking about is that we know Joe Manganiello, the one from, I think, True Blood, you know him as, I know him as Flash Thompson from Spider-Man 1. And no one knows if Deathstroke's still going to be in the film. But honestly, I could not care less. I just want to see the Matt Reeves Batman film.
Yeah, because when that video came out with Deathstroke, it was like a 10-second teaser video, wasn't it? Like handheld, and people didn't know whether he was going to be in Justice League or if this was the solo Batman thing. I don't know if that was actually confirmed, whether it was the solo Batman or not. But yeah, no, with Matt Reeves just doing a complete page one rewrite, my one concern is that I know what Warner Brothers are like. And if you like go back to the Hobbit trilogy, for example, if they've got a release date, they will not budge from that release date. They will force everything. They will force their hand to make sure it comes out at that release date, regardless if the project is rushed or not. I really hope that's not the case, and I do wish that they give Matt Reeves the time to rewrite the script, completely just be 100% set on what he's making, and then just let him have the freedom to make it. Absolutely, War for the Planet of the Apes, we talked about it yesterday. It's my favorite film of the year so far. What he did for those characters in Planet of the Apes, I can't wait to see his take on the Batman character. He says that he's been influenced, we've talked about this on the news before, he's been influenced by Nolan's trilogy in how you can take a comic book character like that, make it grounded and make it an emotional experience. That's what he did with Planet of the Apes. So I know that he can do it for the Batman character. And, you know, if it is that heightened world that we've seen with Ben Affleck's Batman in Batman v Superman, where yes, it's still slightly grounded, but it's definitely a lot more comic booky than Nolan's trilogy. I think that's probably the right direction to take it. So Matt Reeves, although he made Cloverfield, I think that was one of his first movies. I didn't really care for Cloverfield. This is a guy now who's just grown as a director. He's developed to the point where now he's probably one of my favorite directors working in the business. He's like that Denis Villeneuve kind of director now, where I can't wait to see what his next projects are going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to Batman.
It's hard to talk about this on the news without going back to yesterday. So I will say, go watch our review.
Yeah,
we have a lot to talk about on Matt Reeves, but like we said a lot of times yesterday, Batman is going to be something special, and I cannot wait. Everything he said about it, he said the right things. Moving on to some less encouraging DC news. Wonder Woman 2 is rumored to be set during the Cold War. Alongside this rumor, Chris Pine apparently may return. Is the film been out long enough for us to drop a spoiler warning?
I think it is. I think everyone and their mum went to see Wonder Woman. So, but just spoiler alert for Wonder Woman if you haven't seen it.
So Chris Pine died on an airplane during a world war with a superhuman person. Sorry, not Captain America. Sorry, the other. And if he's coming back, then he may have got frozen in ice for 50 years. He may just be in a flashback, but we never know. He could actually be like 90 and be like Peggy Carter. And basically Chris Pine might come back, which I think is stupid, but I've got real issues with Wonder Woman 2 being set in the Cold War. Not just because the Cold War isn't actually a war for people that know anything about history, is the fact that nothing happened. So Wonder Woman doesn't need to be in this film. And also, didn't she say she was done with humanity for like 100 years? So what's she doing in the 1980s that we need to know about? Very odd news piece, but it's something that's I really did like that first film, but I heard that suddenly it was going to be set in modern day like it should be, but they're just going back to the Cold War for the sake of a gimmick like the X-Men films. Then it's not encouraging because there's so much they could do with that character in modern day.
Yeah. I mean, if we're looking at empowering female actresses, characters that are going to be featuring in the Cold War, then we've got Atomic Blonde coming out literally next month, which looks incredible. So, Charlize Theron's going to beat Gal Gadot to the punch on that one. I trust Patty Jenkins. I mean, she's confirmed to be coming back. She knows the character. I thought Wonder Woman was a fantastic film, well handled. Am I happy that it's set in the Cold War? No, not really. And I'm not happy that, oh God, I was going to say Steve Rogers again, then it's Steve Trevor, isn't it? I'm not happy that he's coming back. But then again, when I think back to the movie, when I did watch it and then I talked about it, I think I compared it to maybe they're going to do like the whole Dark Knight Rises thing where you technically didn't see him die. Like it cuts to him in the plane, cuts to the ground, and then the plane explodes. So he could have parachuted out. He could have escaped. The whole autopilot thing from Dark Knight Rises. Maybe he did that. I don't know. It's interesting, and we'll go and see it regardless because it's a DC movie. It's a comic book movie. We'll still go and see it. It depends what the story is going to be like at this point. Like, I'll wait till the trailer comes out and see what they're going to do with the Cold War. But just based on the premise alone, we know that it's not going to top the original and where that was set.
No, there's not a lot you can do in the Cold War, and especially when it's about a giant superhero like Ares can't come back because the Cold War had no war. Just really odd, but yeah, speaking of terrible DC films, Suicide Squad 2. They're eyeing the director of Shallows, which is that shark film from last year, which I didn't watch. He's called Jam Collet Serra, and he's also directed Run All Night, Unknown, Nonstop. What that means is that we're going to get Liam Neeson in the Suicide Squad film.
Place your bet, Susie playing. Is it going to be Ra's al Ghul again? Is this going to tie in?
It's an odd bit. I think, obviously David Ayer is doing that Stupid Woman Harley Quinn film with Joker and was it Gotham City Sirens are calling it?
Yeah, that's
it.
Yeah.
But God, no one's looking forward to that. And they come in for Mel Gibson, and I haven't seen Hacksaw Ridge. You have, you loved it, but getting a name like Mel Gibson, considering he called Batman v Superman like a piece of shit, I think last year. I was really intrigued.
Got a point.
Yeah, and he could probably be in it himself. Like, he's a nutcase, and they've lost him. And apparently, they pushed back production for them to do another rewrite, and he just walked out after that. He was never officially confirmed, but he had been the name everywhere, and he'd spoken about it and stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't sound. I mean, I really did like. I saw Nonstop. I liked Unknown. So it's not what it's marketed as. Nonstop, I did think was great, and I hadn't got around to seeing Run All Night, but they were all right hits. But like Suicide Squad 2, that's a big jump up. Shallows was meant to be great. I think that was like the one person versus the shark film. Mm-hmm. Again, you're never ever going to catch me watching that. But yay, Suicide Squad 2.
Yeah, I remember when the Gibson news came out, and I don't think it was just Batman v Superman he said that was shit. I think he just said superhero films in general are shit. Like, he had no interest in ever directing one. And then, like, a week later, it said that he was in talks to direct Suicide Squad 2, which really confused me. Gibson's easily one of my favorite directors in the business. And, I mean, Hacksaw Ridge was his return to directing with a 10-year hiatus. Braveheart, Passion of the Christ, Apocalypto, Hacksaw Ridge, all solid movies. But I'm glad that he's not directing it because I kind of just want to see him stick to, like, the historical epic kind of films. Like, that seems to be his niche. He's really good at that. And it'd be interesting to see what his take on a superhero film would be, but I don't want him to go down that route. So I'm glad that he's not doing it. I actually haven't seen any of the films that Jean Collet Serra's directed. I haven't seen The Shallows again. I heard it was very good, very enjoyable movie. I think I've heard that pretty much across the board with Nonstop, Unknown, and Run All Night. Hopefully Warner Brothers let him actually make the movie he wanted to make this time and not butcher it in editing. If this is like a solid standalone Suicide Squad movie that isn't like a music video every 5 minutes, then you know what? I might like it. But we're going off Suicide Squad, and that was the foundation, and I really didn't care for that movie. I think I enjoyed it slightly more than you did, but I have watched it since, and all the problems of that movie just come to the forefront even more.
Oh, it was awful. Should we talk about some good films? Well, that
Yes.
should be not good. Sorry, these should be Oscar films.
Yeah.
So Martin Scorsese is doing an adaptation of a famous book called The Irishman. I won't lie, I don't know too much about it. I'm keeping away from knowing about it because the cast at the minute, he's just added 2 names to it. Before today, there was Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and someone else. Oh, De Niro, Al Pacino, great. They're going to get in the serious films. Add in Harvey Keitel and Joe Pesci. This is going to dominate Oscar season. Whenever this film wants to come out, this is, it's a Scorsese gangster. And just look at the names. This could be really apparently he's been trying to make something for 10 years. And getting that cast, apparently Joe Pesci's come out of retirement. And it's rumored he said no many times to do this film. But he's finally said yes. And I think that's just awesome. It's nice to see Scorsese go back to De Niro as well, rather than just stick with Leo. I'm sure he'll probably try and get him in there some way or another, but just reading that cast, you're literally thinking this is going to be some film.
That is a powerhouse cast right there. Just seeing those names, you can imagine a Mount Rushmore of gangster movie characters. All those actors would be on there. I don't really know much about the film, to be honest, The Irishman. I don't think there's many plot details out there at the minute other than the cast and the proposed that it's going to be Scorsese's next movie. But based on this cast, I cannot wait to see this movie. And it will be a return to form for Scorsese. Silence wasn't a bad movie. It was just incredibly dull. It was one of the longest 3-hour slogs I've ever had at the movie theater. Great movie, great performances, but it will be nice to see Scorsese go back to his roots with crime films like this, gangster films. And who knows, Jack Nicholson's out of retirement now for this one movie. Maybe it'll just be one movie, then he'll go back into retirement. But Scorsese did do The Departed, so hopefully the next one he can get Jack Nicholson in another movie as well.
That would be insane. I would love to see that, to be fair. I think going on to the next one, because we don't know too much about The Irishman. Speaking of other authors, we've got Tarantino's next film. And this has been quite, I guess you could say, controversial at the minute, because you've had a lot of people talking about this online. And it's going to be on the Manson murders, and I'm not going to lie, I don't know everything about the Manson murders. It's not something that I like hearing about, to be fair, but it's basically, put it this way, if he goes for basically it's a real life murder of a family event, stuff like that, some pretty fucked up shit. Roman Polanski's wife was murdered when I think she was 8 months pregnant. It's quite grim when you read upon this, and I like my films, but sometimes shit like this you don't really need to see. But Tarantino doing a very, very real life scenario that affects people, that's a well-known crime. He's either going to make this realistic and it's fair play, or he's going to Tarantino it and potentially have one of the most offensive films maybe ever seen, especially when it affects, one of the most respected filmmakers in the world, Roman Polanski. I don't know. But basically, his film's going to be on the Manson murders, and the first 2 needs to be attached to Brad Pitt and Jennifer Lawrence, and they're probably going to shoot next year.
If I have to start off talking about the actors, so Brad Pitt, obviously, he's bringing him back from Inglourious Basterds. Tarantino does that a lot with his actors. He tends to keep the same actors on throughout his projects. And I think that Jennifer Lawrence was one of the names originally touted to play the Daisy Domergue character from Hateful Eight. It eventually went to Jennifer Jason Leigh. So for another project before he brought her on. In terms of a cast, that's a great cast. I'm not the biggest Jennifer Lawrence fan, but she can turn in an all right performance when she wants to, and this might be an interesting role for her. But yeah, I agree with what you said. Now, Tarantino as a filmmaker has never shied away from controversy. Many of his films have been incredibly controversial in the past. But I say for different reasons. Some are for the excessive use of violence, racist language, things like that. But because this is based on real life events, real murders, this is a weird territory for Tarantino to go in, I think. We talked about Inglourious Basterds before. That was obviously a real life event. But with war, although it's an incredibly serious topic, I think there's more room to stray into parody a little bit more with that. And we talked about the scene, for example, where Hitler gets shot, completely historically inaccurate. But in the movie, it works. It's that tongue-in-cheek, comedic nature to Inglourious Basterds, although there are serious scenes in there. This one won't work for comedy, I don't think. And I did have problems in Django Unchained with that as well, to some extent, where I felt there was a tonal clash going on with what kind of movie he was trying to make. This could be the biggest offender of that. Now, of course, it's Tarantino. I've seen every other Tarantino film before. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, so I will absolutely go and see this one if this is made. I don't think this is officially confirmed yet, is it? This is just
no, but it was an
might be
exclusive
making.
that dropped in the week, and I mean, this was a proper report. There's a lot more detail if you go on the Hollywood Reporter. They've got it all on there, but it seems likely that with Tarantino, except the World War II African American Django kind of thing they spoke of, you very rarely hear about his next project about it being legitimate. Even Hateful Eight, that was well known he was going to do that, and then there was that big drama when it got leaked, this, that, the other, and you know, it's definitely going to happen. I can see this happening, especially when they're getting filming dates. They've got the Weinstein brothers confirmed as usual. It seems like this is going ahead.
And another big thing as well is with like music with Tarantino films. Like, I think Hateful Eight was it his first movie with an original soundtrack? Like before that, he just uses basically songs off his iPod or things that he grew up watching in the TV. And if he tries to do that with this movie, I really don't think that'll work. Maybe he wants to kind of go with like a really like grindhouse kind of feel, like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Again, I think it's weird territory to make a film about. But I guess I'll wait for a trailer or more information. That's all we can do at this stage, but it is a bit weird. It's not really his usual MO with his films.
No, and I think moving on from the downer of Tarantino film, we have some Disney news, and we're probably going to get a lot more Disney news next week.
Oh, yeah.
John Oliver, right now the best comedian in the world, not because he's British, because he's a fucking amazing comedian, he's hilarious, has been cast as Zazu in the remake of Lion King. And I think we've spoken quite a few times about the Lion King cast in these, not the news, but across the channel before. And one of the things I always said was, you know, they'll definitely get, Christ, well, I've forgotten his name, Mr. Bean back as Zazu.
Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson, there we go.
Yeah.
And I was like, no one else could be Zazu. And John Oliver. I don't watch a lot of TV. And obviously I don't have HBO because I live in England. But every Monday I wake up and I watch This Week's Night with John Oliver because he is just an amazing comedian, and he has all the qualities of Zazu. Once that casting was announced, I cannot not unsee it now. I can think of his audio, and I can picture him as that parrot thing, giving like Simba like abuse and stuff like that. It's, again, this Lion King remake nails another casting.
Yeah, now I'm not going to go into my thoughts on what I think of remaking Lion King in the first place, but when this news did come out, now the only thing I've seen him in is Community, which I watched last year, loved it.
Oh, yeah, of course he is.
And like when you said John Oliver, I didn't know him from just the name, so I googled him, instantly recognized him from Community, and right there I thought back to scenes from that TV show, his voice, his mannerisms. And I thought, you know what, if you can't get Rowan Atkinson, this is easily the best substitute. Now, we've had a few other voice cast announcements before. I think the one that we're a bit iffy on so far is Seth Rogen as Pumbaa. Like, both of us really didn't see that. But for the most part, everyone else they've absolutely nailed. And this is absolutely another case of that with Zazu. I'm sure once we get to D23, as you said, we might even get like a full cast announcement or definitely a few more names out there. But you know what? Regardless of my thoughts for a remake, as voices go for Zazu, I think John Oliver's a pretty good fit for it.
It's going to be really hard to. The one thing I will say is, it's going to be really hard to watch a film of The Lion King with John Oliver, like not being able to swear. You know, I can just picture like the blooper reel now of just him talking to like Scar, like "Don't be a fucking Donald Trump" or some like piss take. For anyone that hasn't, just please go and Google John Oliver Brexit, John Oliver Donald Trump, John Oliver FIFA, and John Oliver UK election 2017. Four of the funniest videos you'll ever see. They're worth the. He's being sued right now by the head of a miners facility because he took the piss out of the miners, and it's a 20 episode, but he made a joke saying he would get sued, and they actually filed a lawsuit the next day, and he's welcomed it. He is a wonderful comedian, and he's gonna get this right. I really hope that we get D23 like the cast together. Maybe if they wanted to be extreme, they could like read a scene from the original. I don't know, but I would like to. I think we're gonna get Scar's announcement on Sunday.
We'll get Scars, yeah.
Going back to our Planet of the Apes review, I don't know if it was off air. I reckon I want Circus as Scar. I
Yeah.
would do anything to get Jane Myers back, but get Andy Serkis as Scar, that would be something special. I don't think they will, but I'm very excited. And of course, we'll be covering that next Monday.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely get some visuals, I think, of what some of the characters might look like as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's on what they have to offer on that one. And moving to more Disney live action news. This one not so good as Lion King, unfortunately. Disney and Guy Ritchie are struggling to cast Aladdin. So for anyone who doesn't know, Guy Ritchie is touted to be directing the live action adaptation of Aladdin. Now, after seeing King Arthur, what was it, Legend of the Sword, I really don't like that idea, and I really don't want him to do it. But the story is that the studio have considered Dev Patel and Riz Ahmed, but they want an unknown in their mid-20s that can sing and dance, and the production has been pushed back to August as they still have candidates and are yet to decide. You know what? I like that they're taking their time and really thinking about who they're going to cast as Aladdin. Like, it is important to get that right, absolutely. And I like that it's going to retain some of the music as well when they said they want someone who can sing and dance. Really, the only thing for me at this stage that I'm not keen on with this news is that Guy Ritchie is directing. I really think that, like, I know what his take on Aladdin's going to look like. Like, you know, he has that unique style that works for his gangster films. He tried to do that with King Arthur, wasn't the right fit. And I know what it's going to look like. You've got Aladdin, who's the street urchin, he's the thief in the street, very similar kind of character to how he set up King Arthur. That's not what I want for my Aladdin movie. So, you know, in terms of the cast, fine, take as much time as you want, get it right, get it nailed, which they will do at some point. You know, Disney are really good with stuff like that, but it's just the director at this stage for me.
Yeah, if you think of kind of Guy Ritchie directing a Disney film, Aladdin's one of the last ones you think of. You could see him directing so many other ones before Aladdin, but no, he got Aladdin.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling that we'll get an announcement on Aladdin on Sunday as well. So Saturday, I think the way the D23 schedule is going is that Saturday is the live action day, but they've specifically said that Sunday will have a Bambi anniversary and also the Lion King. So whether it's their live action, I don't know how it's going to go, but I genuinely feel if they're going to announce Aladdin, they do it this year at D23. They'll probably announce the next couple of Disney films because we know we're getting Mulan, we know we're getting Dumbo, blah, blah, blah. They'll probably go for the next big ones that who's going to come in 2020, 2021. Mm-hmm. Same with Star Wars. There's going to be some big announcements coming. But I don't... Aladdin's a Disney film I never really liked when I was younger. I know that at the minute, Will Smith, I think, is Genie, which I'm still struggling to comprehend.
No. Please let it not be so.
I've really liked the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes. I've said that before. I would rather he made a Sherlock Holmes 3. I think I prefer Robert Downey Jr. to Benedict Cumberbatch, especially when you look at how terrible season 3 and 4 were of Sherlock. It's really dipped. But this Aladdin film looks like it could be like one of those that's so bad it's funny, the way things are going right now. I like them together. For all I know, it could be outstanding, but I do like the fact they want an unknown and they are taking their time because, you know, Dev Patel and Riz Ahmed, that's basically like, if you not to get into like talk.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Ethnicities. Okay, which like talented, you know, of a certain ethnicity actors do we know? And it is Dev Patel and Riz Ahmed.
Yeah.
Like there are others, but Riz Ahmed's a Disney guy. He's been in Rogue One. Dev Patel's Oscar nominated and he's been around for years. And go for that unknown. I'm intrigued. I want to see them pull it off right, but yeah, I don't care for Aladdin too much, so luckily it doesn't bother me. But the fact that Will Smith's Genie, I'm just sure that means that Jaden Smith will get a cameo somewhere.
Oh. See, I'm massively passionate about the Aladdin Disney film. It was one of my favorites growing up, actually. And I think that, as I sound like a broken record with these, I think they should be preserved. I think remaking them in live action does take some of the magic away or some of the notice away from those old films, and people will probably be watching these live action ones instead of the animated ones. But I know you said when you growing up, you always gravitated to live action more than animation in general. So, you know, there is an audience out there for these films. It's easy money for Disney at this stage. They can just remake all of their classics in live action. But yeah, they need to sort that director out. So we've got a little bit of news left after this, but this is getting towards the end now. Ridley Scott and the Alien universe, talking about eventually introducing Ripley into the prequels. Now, I'm going to prep everyone. This is not me having a stroke reading out this quote. There's a great video on YouTube by Red Letter Media where they do their review on Blade Runner, and they read a quote out in that talking about, did Ridley Scott always have the plan to make Deckard a replicant or human? And that is hilarious when they read that out, and they read it out verbatim. Again, Ridley Scott, he's taking that like coke. He's taking some kind of drug at this stage. But this is his direct quote. "We're heading towards the back end of the first Alien, so CG work may be feasible," he admitted. "I don't think it'll... But Ripley's going to be someone's daughter, obviously. We're coming in from the back end. The time constraints of what's the time between this movie, where we leave David going off, heading for that colony, I think you're probably 2 films out from even considering her." That's a direct quote, again, not me having some kind of seizure or stroke. I don't know what's happened to Ridley Scott. I think he's just gone insane in his old age. The fact that basically, if I'm going to try and translate that, what he's saying is that if they do get to Ripley, it'll be some kind of CGI motion capture work, kind of like what they did with Tarkin, Pete Cushing's character in Rogue One, which I'm fine with. But the fact that he says that we're 2 films away from even considering the opportunity of introducing Ripley's past, like, no one cares about these movies. I don't know what the final box office gross was for Alien Covenant, but that film flopped hard. Like, no one gave a shit. No one gives a shit about the Prometheus films or the setup to Alien. What we would have cared about, and what we've said many times, is Alien 5 with Neil Blomkamp, but that's not going to happen now. You know, you've made your bed, Ridley Scott, and sleep in it. Like, you're going to make money from these films. You're just banking off your old franchises, and you're just undermining your greatest work in the past. I don't give a shit about this. Ridley Scott is kind of dead to me now as a director.
I've always loved George Lucas, and I've always understood the criticism, but I don't think each week I pull the schedules together. We all work on it and stuff, but there's always a Ridley Scott quote popping about. It's like he wants to be reported on weekly. I think, was it last week or the week before, when it was, you know, it was talking about Alien Covenant, and there were like loads of like dots, and like, we're not trying to take the piss, mate. We're literally copy and pasting your quotes and repeating them, but I haven't seen Covenant, and I will get to it because it's probably going to be on my worst films of the year list. But
I've heard they're doing like an extended 20-minute extra cut when it comes out on
I won't be buying that. I've got a 4K setup, and it's like, do you want to buy Prometheus? And I was like, no, go away. And he sounds like a broken record. And the reason I made the Lucas comparison is because Lucas dipped off his film quality. He never came out and said nonsense like this. Like, you can get interviews of him talking about stuff when he's been put on the spot and under pressure and stuff. But, you know, did he ever destroy Star Wars so bad that, like Ridley Scott's done to Alien? Like, Star Wars was one of the biggest properties in the world, and a lot of people do hate his prequels, but it opened up a new era of Star Wars fans' opportunity. It did new things. Whereas these, like, and the fact that I think Ridley Scott was even talking about what Lucas did with Star Wars, this guy is going down the wrong path. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to build cancel Blade Runner in 2049, because he's probably made a better film than he could do. Yeah. I'm just wondering what the next quote's going to be.
The thing is, for like every Alien cover, we get The Martian though, and I love The Martian. So
it wasn't, to me though, it wasn't his. It was written by, I forgot his name. Was it Steve Knight, one of the guys who worked on Daredevil?
Yeah.
Their person left the project, and Scott came in at the last minute. And there were question marks when Scott came on, but he had someone else's story, and he did an excellent job of it. However, I think most of pre-production had already been done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sad because, you know, Exodus was, I didn't mind it, but it wasn't a good film. It was intriguing to see it at cinema, but it was shit, basically. Yeah. I don't know why I'm defending it. And Prometheus, Covenant, he's done The Martian, but what was his last great film before The Martian? Gladiator? And every time a film comes out, every time he does a film now, it's his best film since Gladiator. It's like the best Terminator film since Terminator 2, the best Spider-Man film since Spider-Man 2, and it's like, it's not very high standards. Mm-hmm. Like, well, it is in some of these cases, but you're going back to one from 15 years ago, not from 2 years ago. Like, it'd be like Chris Nolan, like, I don't know, Dunkirk, his best film since Interstellar. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can picture some nonsense like that, where it's like, but that was his last film. It's not like, you know, Michael Bay, if Transformers 7 came out, his best film since Transformers 1. It's not much of a stepping stone. Like, Gladiator is an amazing film, but I don't know. We're talking about really talking way too much, but
I say
his
tune in
quotes are
next week
just
to see if
gold.
we've got another quote.
Yeah, it's
We'll
like
probably have another quote next week at
it's like
some
the
point.
simian flu. Like instead of coughing and muting, there's Ridley Scott quotes. Um,
Let's move on to more superhero movie news then, because Lord knows we don't get that every week. So 20 stills have been released for Marvel's upcoming Black Panther movie. A lot of new info. I'm sure we're going to get more at the Comic-Con panel and the Marvel panel with that one. I haven't actually seen these still, so I can't really comment. Basically, just thoughts on the trailer that I've seen. Visually, it looks stunning. It looks interesting. It looks unique. I don't know much about the Black Panther character. Someone did clear me up on one of my reaction videos, so I know a little bit more. It might be the same cookie cutter formula, but it's at least it's a new character. I'll be experiencing a new character on the big screen in the Marvel universe, and that's what I'm excited for.
yeah, I looked at the. I think it's on EW every year. They do a Comic Con issue, and they have their head film for Comic Con. Last year was, I've already forgotten last year's film. The year before was Apocalypse. I think the year before was Batman v Superman. They've chosen this as their big one for this year. And I looked at the pictures. There's descriptions underneath, but I kept away from that. I don't want it not necessarily to be spoiled, but I don't know a lot about Black Panther, so I'm really intrigued to learn about it myself. However, we did get some awesome pictures of Andy Serkis as a villain and not in motion capture suit. So I think he was one of my favorite things with Civil War, so I'm really excited to see what they do. Ryan Coogler's an outstanding director. Fruitvale Station and Creed are both phenomenal films. And we're getting Michael B. Jordan in another Ryan Coogler film, which is great. So I feel this is going to be one of their main things at Comic-Con. The Marvel panel, I guess I can add in brackets, has been now announced for Sunday, the 23rd of July, which is next Sunday. It's going to be 90 minutes long. Normally they're an hour, so they've got a shitload to say. Originally, this was scheduled for the Friday. It's come out. That's the Marvel TV panel on the Friday. So expect some Defenders news as well. And they've confirmed that the Punisher will be in attendance. So,
oh, amazing!
It's. I think Marvel's got this Comic-Con, but I'm assuming that the people there will probably get some clips. But I think we might get a Infinity War trailer, maybe, just maybe. But that's genuinely it of the MCU. There is some more. We've got like the last bits, which really quick things. Yeah, like the new X-Men film started filming. No one cares. The Rock's put on Instagram that Rampage is wrapped. Fair enough, because he's been going on about that for months on Instagram. Jurassic World 2 Fallen Kingdom wraps. No one cares. And then just a little one that James Gunn, worth following James Gunn on Facebook. His jokes on it. He announced that Guardians of the Galaxy 2 Blu-ray is going to have the music video to Guardians Inferno. Hasselhoff's in the video. And that I could think will be very funny. It's a great song, so I'm intrigued to see that. But that's the news.
There's one final little bit I wanted to talk about, if that's okay. It was a poster that was released. It's the first official poster for Saw 8, or what it's called, Jigsaw now. Really interesting poster for anyone who knows the Saw franchise. The main character wears a pig mask. It's kind of an iconic image alongside the doll from the franchise. The poster is of the mask hanging on a wall with a saw lodged in its head and with a tagline that says, "Become Jigsaw." Now, I love the Saw movies. I didn't like Saw 7, but I loved the time of... I was never old enough to actually see any of them in the cinema, but I looked forward to them every year. They were like that classic anthology horror movie. I loved the story of it, seeing it unfold. So I'm glad that we are getting another Saw 8 back, because Saw did not deserve the closure that we got with Saw 7. And I like this whole speculating thing again, because that's what I used to do with Saw movies. I used to predict what was going to happen, try and deconstruct it before I even see it. And that's what I'm having with this one. So Become Jigsaw, a lot of fans are thinking that maybe the story is going to be like copycat people trying to, bank off Jigsaw's previous work. Maybe it's like a tryout thing where people audition to be the next Jigsaw. All speculation at this point, but I think it's a great poster, and I'm just glad that Saw's back. So yeah, that'll do it for the news. Just wanted to talk about that one quickly. On to trailer talk then. So do you want to take it first with The Dark Tower?
Yeah, so a new international trailer came out for The Dark Tower. It actually popped up at the cinema for Planet of the Apes, and I've never read the books. I will say that's probably important. It's Stephen King. I don't know what to make of this film. I love Idris Elba, I love Matthew McConaughey, but this has been the second trailer's come out a month before the film's come out, and this is a Sony film, and they didn't attach it to Spider-Man: Homecoming, which was mental, because this is going to be a 12A. It's an international trailer. It's a lot like the first trailer, I thought, with some repeated scenes, some great monologues, which I guess are the most famous quotes from the book. As someone that's going into this, don't know too much, but I don't think it looks any good, to be fair. There's a lot of hype going into this, and I really hope it is great. Um, but it looks like a cross between Lord of the Rings and a Western. Like, I couldn't care less, in all honesty. Like, I'm going to see it and hope it's good, but it wasn't a very good trailer. It was basically the first trailer with new footage and new monologues.
Mm. See, I'm going to be jumping on a reaction for this tomorrow, so I haven't seen it yet. I want to get my first time reaction when I do my video for it. My thoughts on the first trailer, I was kind of you. I was really indifferent about it. I think that I haven't read the books either, but I've heard that it's not a direct adaptation of the first book. They've kind of taken elements from most of them and kind of gelled it into its own thing. The trailer really didn't wow me. And the fact that this is out next month and this is only trailer 2, I haven't seen this trailer play in the theater at all. And we go to the movies every week. I think this one's going to flop hard, to be honest. But I shouldn't say that, because Stephen King fanboy, you've got like DC fanboys up here, and then you've got Stephen King fanboys right there. So I don't know. I'll still go and see it regardless. We'll have a review on it, I'm sure. But if it's anything like the first trailer, then I probably won't be wowed by it either.
Yeah.
Right, we have a lot of other trailers. So I'm going to go with American Assassin next. So this was American Assassin trailer 3. Starring everyone's favorite Michael Keaton. The plot for this thing kind of looks, it's very stock. It's some kind of like VR technology that's established where they're training and recruiting soldiers. Seems like, you know, it's done by like the government, like super soldier kind of thing. And this guy's wife or girlfriend is killed. He's hired by this company and they're training up to be the ultimate soldier, apparently. The bad guy, it's so stock you could write this in your sleep, has stolen a bunch of plutonium. And he's a previous super soldier that Michael Keaton has trained up before. He's now had to take someone new under his wing to train them up to take him on. It looks fine. Like, the action really didn't do anything for me. It probably won't be that good in all honesty. But as I say, it's got Michael Keaton in there, and that will get me into the cinema to see it. It looks like he's turning in a fine but usual performance as Michael Keaton. I don't know. It kind of looks a bit like the Bourne films, I guess, like that whole type of thing. So if that's your thing, then that's fine.
Yeah. Right. What's next? Oh, should we go for one of mine? So yep. I saw the trailer for Goon 2. For those that have never seen Goon, it's a comedy about ice hockey, lots of fighting. It looks like a comedy sequel that it should be. Doesn't look like it'd be anywhere near as good as the first film. However, it could actually be all right. So I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to. I don't know. It just looks like a comedy sequel. The first one's a very underrated film, very funny. It's got some great moments, but this is basically okay. The guy got to the top of the ice hockey mountain in the first film. What do you do for the second one? Well, he gets beat up in this first one, so it's a recovery. It's that kind of film. So yeah, Goon 2 trailer. There you go.
Yeah, I'm going to try and go through these as quick as I can. So there was a film called The Hatred. I'm not sure if this is getting a wide release because at the end of the trailer it said available on Blu-ray and digital download, all that kind of thing. It's a horror film that you've pretty much seen all these scares before. It's something hiding under the bed. It's something in the closet. It's creepy dolls. It's everything like that. But actually the trailer really did get me. There's a great twist in the trailer. And then it kind of resorts to the typical jump scare, The Grudge type kind of scares in it. It looks all right. I might check it out because I always do like to try and find a good horror film if I can. Another trailer that came out was a film called Pilgrimage. It looks like a kind of low budget film. Tom Holland's in there. He's the main build star. You've got Richard Armitage in there, and you've got the Punisher in there himself, John Bernthal. So in terms of a cast, it's great, I think you can say, although Tom Holland isn't really like shown all that much in the trailer. It's this religious quest movie where they've got some kind of artifact they say is from God of immense power, and they're trying to transport it across the land, and people are vying to try and get it. That's basically what the film's about. Looks interesting, but as I said, it does look very low budget, so I don't know if this thing's going to get a wide release or not.
Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer for it. That's one, mate. There's quite a few. Shall I go for another one? This is one I've been very, very, very intrigued by for the last year. We're getting 2 films on Winston Churchill this year, and the one I've been speaking about, the one I'm hopeful for, is the Gary Oldman Churchill film. Those are thinking, can Gary Oldman play Churchill? He can. I'm not going to go into details. It's a biopic it's called The Darkest Hour, but it's basically a World War, one of the, I guess you could say, the most intense moments of World War II, and how Churchill became PM and what he did in the process. A lot of people know the story. I went, well, you can't really spoil it because we won World War II, but yeah, it's a biopic. It's going to be nominated for Oscars. It's very scary seeing Gary Oldman because you've got the Gary Oldman voice with the Churchill grunt, looking nothing like Gary Oldman except in the teeth and eyes. So I think it looks awesome, but it's going to be getting that image into your head. And he has transitioned into it insanely. But when you watch Dawn of the Apes like a couple of days ago, and then you see like this Gary Oldman, it's quite jarring to say the least. But
he just throws himself into these roles, though, doesn't he? He become like you see his past catalogue of films and characters that he's played in the past. He becomes unrecognizable in a lot of things, and that's partly down to the makeup with this one. I haven't seen the trailer yet. I do want to do a reaction for it in a couple of days' time. So, you know, I didn't see this one. I can't talk about it, but I guess they can't call it Churchill because that was already taken with, you know, the Brian Cox movie that came out this year. So Darkest Hour, it's a very weird title, I guess. I think that was a quote he said, wasn't it, or something maybe. I don't know. I don't know my Churchill history. There's a film out called The Family Man. This was the official first trailer starring Gerard Butler and Alison Brie. And actually, like Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina, like, I was watching the trailer and saying it feels like a supporting cast members of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie reunion or something like that. This is a trailer that just shows you the entire movie. It starts off like it could be like a funny comedy movie. You've got Gerard Butler and Alison Brie seemingly vying. They're at the same company and they're vying for a promotion at work. So it looked like it could be funny. They're competitive. They're trying to get it. And then the film kind of takes like a dramatic change where Gerard Butler is the workaholic. He's got a wife. He's got a son. He kind of neglects them. He devotes all his time to his work. And then his son falls ill. And then it's like a bonding experience between father and son. And then at the end, and this is spelled out at the end of the trailer, he goes to his boss and says, like, my family is more important than my job and work. So they basically show you the entire movie. Doesn't look very good at all, but, you know, Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina's in there. So there is that going for it too. Is that all of the... Oh, T2. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, 3D re-release, final trailer. What more can you say? Terminator 2, it's one of the finest films ever made by man. It's coming out August 29th, which is the date in Terminator 2, which I thought was genius. I've booked my tickets already. Cannot wait to see this one. I missed the re-release of the first Terminator film in cinema, but by God, I'm not going to miss Terminator 2. And I think that's all of the trailers, isn't it?
Yeah,
for today.
That's all the trailers.
There's been a lot of other ones released as well, but we're not talking about every other trailer that's came out because the segment can get pretty long.
Yeah, 15 trailers when some of them no one will ever watch is something that we've kind of worked on because they were long when we had 3 of us doing it too.
Yeah. We're
going to hit box office breakdown, which I guess because it's like my baby because I fly through this. I love doing this. It's so much fun. Stats. Right, box office last week. Iron Man Homecoming took #1 spot with 117 million in America. This got 250 million opening worldwide. This is the 5th highest grossing opening weekend of all time for a Spider-Man film. There have been 6 Spider-Man films. There you go. Adjusted for inflation, it would be even more embarrassing. Try and take things a bit more seriously. The 4-day total is less than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So if you come in the comparisons, that this film is probably going to make between 750 to 850 mil. Again, won't be the highest grossing Spider-Man film. Good luck. Spider-Man 3, I think, a 390 mil opening weekend, which is madness. Even for today, that's madness. So yeah, Iron Man Homecoming, there you go. Despicable Me 3 went in at #2 with 33 mil. It's not, I mean, it's made like 120 mil America, which is all right, but compared to others, it's not brilliant. But worldwide, it's on 450 mil. It's doing really well internationally because I guess it's not hard to translate yellow things making poo noises. So yeah, Despicable Me 3. Baby Driver, more interestingly, week 2, it's dropped to 13 mil. You might think that's a bit crap, but for an Edgar Wright film with a budget of 30 mil, it's sitting on 72 mil worldwide, which I think is exceptional for a film that come out in blockbuster season when it should have had a March release date before all the heavy ones come in.
And had like no marketing power behind it at all.
Oh yeah, this was... I mean, I missed the review, and I guess the first time I can technically say I speak about it, but it's one of my favorite films of the year. I loved it. It was exceptional. And it's a film that I mean, I know people that have done this a couple of times. A lot of people seem to be watching this film multiple times. I would like to, but there's so many films coming out. At the minute, you struggle to see the same film twice. But it needs 8 mil to overtake Hot Fuzz and be his most successful film at the box office, which it's easily going to do. This could be the first Edgar Wright film to pass 100 mil at the box office, which is mental when you think that an Edgar Wright film hasn't passed 100 mil, but that goes to show that he's a very cult filmmaker and he has a very different kind of following, so fair play to that, because it would have been too easy for him to have bent over and done Ant-Man the way Marvel wanted him to. I guess very quickly, we've got Wonder Woman that's still in the top 5. It's at number 4, made 9 mil. The only reason I'm talking about it is because it overtook Pirates to the worldwide box office. That only took it like a month or two. And it's overtaken the worldwide total for Suicide Squad. It's on 746 mil. It's going to get nowhere near Batman v Superman, which is on like 890. So pipe down, people. And yeah, Wonder Woman's still going strong, I guess. It'll probably be dead in the water after Dunkirk comes out, because we've got Planet of the Apes this week. We've got Dunkirk next. So Wonder Woman will finally disappear. But what has died is Transformers 5. 6 million. It's US domestic this weekend, which is mental. 496 mil worldwide. China dropped off 75% after week 2, which never happens over there. And this is definitely going to be, I mean, this is at the minute on less than half of not just the third one, but the fourth one too. And I would be very surprised this film even hit 600 mil. I did not think it would flop this hard. I knew it was going to get nothing compared to the other ones, but very bad for them. They're still going to do the Bumblebee film, but yeah, this is more fun. Weekend preview. We've literally breezed through box office.
Yeah,
we have a battle for the box office of the War for the Planet of the Apes versus the Spider-Man. And basically, what's happening is that Apes is a very sort of niche film, I guess you could say. They're aiming for a 60 to 65 mil weekend, but what they're saying is that it could enter the 70s. Dawn got 72. Opening weekend, Rise had 54. But what's more interesting is that War had a budget a lot smaller than Dawn. They reckon by about 12%, which is mental for a kind of third film in a trilogy. And I'm intrigued to see what they do next with it. It looks like it's going to make money overseas. What's more interesting is that China hasn't got a release date yet. They're very strict on like international films coming in, and they basically reckon it will come out in China in late August to September. Dawn did very well there apparently, so that could help it swing. But for those that are intrigued in any sense, I think Rise made about 300 mil at the box office. Dawn made 700. And I think with this, they're predicting the same as Dawn or slightly less, because Dawn did have a better time slot. I think that was July 2014, but the only film out then was Transformers, whereas now we've got sort of Dunkirk, Spider-Man. But I think this will come out strong and the reviews are going to help it. I think it'll be like Wonder Woman. It'll be a sleeper hit and it's going to stick in the box office for quite a while. So that's the main battle. And the reason they're saying the battle is because Iron Man Homecoming, they're expecting to get anything between like 55 and 60 mil. So Apes could win it, which it should do because reviews are going to help. But Spider-Man could just ever so slightly get it. I don't think it will. I don't want it to, but Apes together strong. And that's what the box office needs.
Absolutely. The thing is with Spider-Man, it's definitely, and this is what Marvel wanted from it, it's a more accessible movie, isn't it? You got kids that are going to want to see it. You got teenagers, you got comic book fans. It's a safe movie, whereas War for the Planet of the Apes is a genuinely, it's a masterpiece of a movie, which deserves way more attention. But it's a very, as you said, it's a niche kind of film, the Planet of the Apes films, especially this new one. I don't know in terms of like repeat viewings if people will want to go back to it because it is such like an emotion. I don't want to talk about it too much because we did our review on it, but I think that Spider-Man is like that easy, let's go to the cinema, let's watch a fun movie, 2 hours, boom, done. Whereas Apes takes a lot more emotional investment and focus on it, I would say.
Apes is actually a well thought film, has a great story, great character moments. It has, I can't say it's got a good villain because, to be fair to Homecoming, it has that. But if you're at home this weekend and you're thinking, I want to go to the cinema, you have two options. You either watch Planet of the Apes or you pre-order your Dunkirk tickets for the following week. Apes, we cannot. Again, we've done a review on why it was so great. We're probably going to do another video about why it's one of the best trilogies of all time. We're going to have a trilogy roundtable at some point, talking a lot of trilogies, something very different that's not about the brackets, because we want to kind of praise films, I guess we could say, rather than just attack each other's, as fun as that is. But I really hope Apes gets a strong box office. I mean, the fact is that it's going to be a hit regardless. It's going to make money, but, you know, it deserves to be up there. It deserves to be on sitting on that top 10. And finally, you know, it's nice. It'll be really nice to see it above Transformers. Just something like that. You know, how a film about CGI monkeys can outgross a film about CGI cars that are robots in disguise.
So
But no,
in the same month, like I've gone from my worst film of the year with Transformers 5 to my favorite film of the year with Wolf of Planet of the Apes. So it's definitely been an interesting month for movies.
I'd say it's been an interesting week. Like I think I went to the cinema 3 times in 6 days. I saw Baby Driver, Spider-Man, Planet of the Apes. The cinematic experience, if you see this hand, it's like 10 to 10. Like it's a like peak, crap, peak. And what have we got next week? Dunkirk. Then I'm not just watching Dunkirk, it's Dunkirk IMAX Leicester Square, followed by repeat viewing Dunkirk IMAX the following like 2 days later, then a review. So hopefully that's good. But I think that's the main news. But Planet of the Apes, please go and support that film. Like, not the. I know some people still get funny because it's about monkeys, it's a reboot, etc., etc. It's a phenomenal film, and maybe, you know, some companies will start looking at making actual blockbusters that have good stories rather than explosions and ideas. And that's my Twitter beeping off. But I think that's everything on the news this week.
Yeah, I think that's a good time as any to sign off. Yeah.
Yep, so I'm signing off. I just realized. Again, I'm going to say I say every video now. We have a lot of content coming out daily. I've uploaded a video of my trip to Skellig Michael for some because Lucasfilm decided to file a copyright request for using John Williams music because I wasn't not going to put the stairs music on. You could only watch it on desktops or TVs, apparently. Can't do it on phones or iPads, so apologies for that. But we've got that video. We have Film Club coming tomorrow. You are watching your favorite Moonrise Kingdom because you love Wes Anderson. I believe we might have a Cars 3 review because we've only just got it in England this week. I will actually be at Silverstone. However, I may have escaped the review from Cars 3, but I did not escape Cars 3. No joke, there was a life-size Lightning McQueen car in the Formula One pits, which did not settle down well with me. I did not like that at all. But we've got a lot of stuff coming. As usual, we always say we've got a lot of stuff coming. Monday, we've got a very special D23. Game of Thrones is back. We will be working out dates to do Game of Thrones reviews like last time. That's going to be very big. We can't wait to talk Game of Thrones. And yeah, this has been another episode of Cinema Savvy News. I'm George, you're Chris. I don't do outros. So be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit that bell icon. I think that's what Tate says, hit the bell. He likes hitting bells. And then you'll get all your notifications pop up to your inbox as we speak. So every time we go live, you'll get a beep to your phone. Every time you go live, you'll get emailed. Every time a video comes up, you'll get the same. You cannot escape from us if you press the bell.
Notification Squad? I think that's what they call them, isn't it, on YouTube?
Yes, the Notification Squad. We have our own. I've not been sleeping this episode. And I'm going to go to bed because I've got to be out of the house in 6 hours' time. So I can't actually end the broadcast. Chris, it's on you.
Okay. I guess I'm stopping now then. See you guys. Thanks for watching.